Thank you for joining Dr. James, Rini, and I, the Curiosity Conduit, Dana Ortiz, for a look behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Dr. Rini is a practicing psychotherapist for the last 46 years, and I am a retired law enforcement officer with 26 years' experience. And I'm now a psychology student. Please feel free to add comments or ask questions below, and make sure to subscribe and like. Dr. Rini or I will be happy to answer any questions you have. Today we have photographer Jake K in the house. It's actually Jake Kurdik? Kurdik, that Russian name. Kurdik, okay. He is Jake Shoots Birds on Facebook and Instagram, not because he actually shoots them, but because he photographs them. He will be taking live photos of Dr. Rini and I during this session, and they will be posted in the future. Hello, Jake. Thank you for being here. So let's get down to it. Today we'll be discussing Norman Cousins and explore how positive emotions and laughter can play a powerful role in healing. This conversation may lead to feelings of inspiration and curiosity, and it could also create some inner movement. That's all welcome. Life will reveal your destiny through all opportunities you keep yourself available for. So allow yourself to stay open, and let's see what destiny delivers. So in my research on Norman Cousins, it showed that he was an American author, editor, and advocate for mind-body medicine. He is most famous for using humor and pleasure as part of his own healing process while recovering from a serious illness. He believed that laughter could trigger biochemical changes in the body that promoted healing, such as reducing stress and boosting the immune system. In your view, Dr. Rini, what are the most important lessons we can learn from Cousins' approach?
Well, he kind of confirmed the saying that laughter is the best medicine. He had a serious form of rheumatoid arthritis, which was terminal, but he watched Alan Fund's Candid Camera, Marx Brothers, and laughed himself into remission. So what that says is there is a unbreakable link between the mind and the body. So the states that we put ourselves, the emotions that we experience, likewise activate different neurotransmitters and biochemicals in the body. And so in essence, you want to be the author of your own life, write your own script so that you can evoke from yourself those abilities that you have as a mind and as a body for optimal function.
So you really become that active participant in your own healing at that point when you're doing things and engaging in that laughter and trying to stay in that positive mindset.
You know,
Is that correct?
that is a great way to put that you are an active participant, because from my perspective, people view healing as something that they take and put inside of them, take a pill in order to heal and feel better rather than relying on their own resources. Like for me, I don't take medicine. I don't take aspirin to get rid of a headache or Tylenol. I rely on my own body to do those things, and it takes care of them for me, as opposed to becoming dependent on others or medicine or that kind of stuff. Then you're not able to have that agency for yourself to heal yourself. So I think that's a great point that you make.
And I think it's just inconceivable for a lot of people to even think about not taking a pill, ibuprofen, Excedrin, something that's as simple as a headache.
Well, especially watching TV, all these commercials are on there. It's, this pill that you can take for this and that shot that you can get from that. And so they become dependent on these things and totally lose touch with their own healing capacities and creativity.
So for a listener who's trying to break down and understand what you're saying, would this suggest, oh, hey, when I have a headache, just go watch Candid Camera, or something different?
Well, I mean, there are lots of ways to experiment with different things, okay?
So it's individual.
Like, it's even what you say to yourself. Like you say to yourself, I wonder how quickly my headache is going to go away. What you're doing is giving the suggestion to yourself, headache, go away quickly, okay? Or I wonder how quickly I can forget about the headache. It's all in what we say to ourselves. It's a type of auto-suggestion. We suggest to ourselves what we think. And so what I'm saying is think the outcome that you want rather than thinking I'm going to be stuck with this problem forever and I don't know how to get rid of it, because then you will be stuck with a problem forever and not know how to get rid of it.
Excellent point, which leads me into this next quote. It says, learn to recognize such negative states as feelings of worthlessness, anger, sadness, vulnerability, and emptiness as natural and necessary for growth. Why is this statement true?
Well, hunger, thirst, fatigue, they are natural and necessary for growth and maintenance. So the same thing with feelings of worthlessness, anger, sadness, vulnerability. Emotions are a sensory system. They don't see or hear what's going on with us. Instead, they cause us to feel certain things. So let's say, for example, you were in a relationship and the relationship ended and you feel worthless. Okay, well, it'd be helpful to say, okay, let me look at myself. How can I improve myself? How can I enhance my worth? Okay, rather than I'm worthless, nobody's ever going to want me, I give up, what's the point? You use that worthless to enhance your worth. You look at anger to look at how you've been hurt. Okay. And how can you manage, and you can't go, well, I don't want to get hurt again, because then you're denying yourself the very same thing that you're hurting yourself by denying what you need. But more learning how to process that with the other person, maybe communicate or know that that person isn't a person that you can talk to and resolve things with. Not every person can you talk with and solve problems. Now, there are some people that are great. You can talk to them, they understand, and we move forward. So sadness can tell you that there are wants, needs, and desires that aren't being attended to. Vulnerability will say, I differentiate vulnerability from fragile. Like some people think if they're vulnerable, they're weak. No, if you're fragile, you're weak. You need to be vulnerable in order to grow. Otherwise, you're just playing it safe, and you can't grow if you play it safe.
No, I love that. And so what I'm hearing is each of these states are a moment and an opportunity for us to learn from
And grow from.
and grow.
Especially grow, because these are negative feelings. And negative feelings are really the greatest source for growth. And I say that as a psychotherapist because that's what people bring in here. They bring pain. They don't bring happiness. But through that pain, then we bring about growth, which brings about happiness.
Yeah, I do believe that is so important, and to not, push it down, compartmentalize these things, because if we do that, then bad things may happen and manifest.
And unfortunately, that is a natural tendency to somehow remove them from our experience. But in doing so, we are neglecting important data that we need to pay attention to in order to move forward.
I like that. All right, so this next quote says, tune into and enjoy the pleasures of the spirit by discovering the world of symbolism, by constructing a positive myth about your life and life after death, by acknowledging the need for both pain and pleasure, and by giving and having faith in something greater than ego consciousness. Each portion of this quote is pretty big. And I kind of want to just break this down a little bit. The one I'm most interested in is the first portion where it says, tune into and enjoy the pleasures of the spirit by discovering the world of symbolism. Let's go into that a little bit.
All right. Well, we've talked in the past about pleasure and pain and how important they are and the functions they serve. The problem is people tend to look at pleasure and pain very stereotypically, meaning they get pleasure out of eating, they get pleasure out of doing drugs or drinking or having sex or those kinds of things, which, yes, are pleasurable, but can also be problematic.
Sure.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that there's other kinds of pleasure. There's pleasure in loving and being loved. And the nice thing about that pleasure is we don't develop a tolerance to it. It is always there to be fully experienced if we have that opportunity to love and be loved. So the spirits of the pleasures of the spirit is, when you're enthused about something, that's being filled with the spirit. So I want to tune into that enthusiasm. I want to look for where can I find enthusiasm for some, and that gives me pleasure. Making people laugh gives me pleasure. Okay, a positive myth about your life is going to be constructive because you are seeing a worth in your life. That's something you have to offer. In that, there could be a great deal of pleasure. I mean, comedians like to make people laugh. They get a lot of pleasure out of making people laugh. They get a lot of pain out of people not laughing, for example. A myth about life after death is because we're going to die, we know that. People tend to fear death, and by doing so, they then are unable to look at it from a pleasurable standpoint.
So I really want to stress the point of constructing a positive myth about your life and life after death. Everything that you're talking about in this drug-free prescription is important. However, this one being so important, and I want to make sure we hit this over and over because fear is so prevalent in our society, and with that being the opposing force of spirituality, this is a must, that they must do this. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is, got going on in their life or what they believe, but it's so important for them to come up with what's individual for them and what they believe. Is that correct?
No, that's great.
Okay.
I mean, you kind of brought out another facet that I wasn't thinking about in relation to this, which is the fear facet.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, this last portion, no, the second to last portion, when by acknowledging the need for both pain and pleasure, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that and the next portion of the quote. I think it's important for listeners to hear the repetitive information.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's all different ways.
ties together. Yeah,
Yeah.
all tied together. All right. So the idea of tuning into the pleasures of the spirit, another way of looking at it, because we talked about it earlier, is part of the brain serves a transcendent function. So we're using that part of the brain that's very important in order to become whole. Because all the different parts of the brain come together to make us whole, be it pain or pleasure, the transcendent function, emotions, feelings, relationships, all those things come together to make us whole. And you're right, in a society where fear dominates, and we're not really given strategies to deal with fear. And if anything, fear is weaponized in order to motivate people to do things we want them to do that they wouldn't necessarily do otherwise. So that positive myth about your life and life after death helps you transcend the efforts that are made to level us down, to make us just another unit to be utilized or taken advantage of.
And for those who are out there who are still searching and trying to figure out what your positive myth is about life and life after death, it's okay and normal to have the thoughts of, well, hey, ask a friend, what do you believe? Or what do you believe? Maybe I should believe what they believe. It's okay to have those thoughts. However, in the end, I think the best thought is what feels right for you. And it's okay to be different and have different belief system than those around you and those even in your own household.
And you made me think of something to add to what you're saying. It is so easy to be negative about things because the world is negative. I mean, that's what, they come in and the world's falling apart. It's, everything's crazy. It's negative. But you have the ability to create a positive myth about your life. My positive myth is I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to help people, and that I was meant to do that. So that's the myth part until I actually did it, so any discouragement or efforts that people did to get me to change my mind were futile because that was my positive myth. Okay. And then, a myth about life after death, I mean, some people don't want an existence after life.
And that's okay if
Yeah,
that's what they want to
that's
believe.
your positive myth. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. For me, the one I like is I'm going to be reunited with all my loved ones.
Oh,
Okay.
that's sweet.
Um, for others, they're going to have, 20 virgins, to be with, the last part of this is having faith in something gives us is something greater than ego consciousness, because ego consciousness is reality based, and reality is important, but it's really a co-creative process between reality and imagination.
Mm.
Somebody saw bread mold and go, that could be an antibiotic, cure people of things. Where other people just see it as bread mold, it needs to be thrown away. Okay, so it allows us to transcend ego consciousness. It allows us to tap mental abilities that are much more powerful than the ego. But unfortunately, we're a very egocentric society.
Yes, we are. And it's really tough to break from that. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. You know what? I'm going to say that's incorrect what I just said. It is not tough to do it. One person can do it in one action. However, it doesn't typically happen that way.
And here's what I'm thinking is the problem for most people. They don't know they have an alternative.
Correct.
Okay, because they're driven by the ego, the conscious ego, which is the thing we're mostly aware of, and so that seems to be our reality. And what we're saying here, no, there's a reality here. There's a consciousness called unconscious that's well beyond the bounds of ego consciousness.
So this kind of ties into the next quote. It says the level of meaningfulness or meaninglessness that your life has depends on you. So for me, when I read this, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong in here, this is true for each person, which essentially is saying life has no meaning until we apply the meaningfulness to it.
Yes. Well, as I like to say, meaning is a creative act in the here and now. Meaning, I'm creating the meaning. If you tell me, hey, you look nice today, I can say, does that mean I look like crap all the rest of the time? See, I've taken a totally different assuming out of what you said than what you meant. So that's what I mean by it's a creative act. And so for those of us that don't have a lot of self-worth, it's easy then for us to interpret things in such a way that their meanings validate our low self-worth, as opposed to having that positive belief and myth. What was I put on this earth to do? What was I put here to accomplish? And then another thing that makes people feel meaningless, there are, billions and billions of people on the planet. So, and the universe is huge. I'm smaller than a speck of dust. How can my life be worth anything? And I'll share something that a client of mine said that years ago. And I say, well, there are billions and billions of stars in the universe, but there's only one sun that gives life to this planet. So it's a pretty essential sun out of all the billions and billions, So that's what I'm saying about it. The negativity, the fear, it tends to take away our potential as opposed to faith and having a positive belief in what we want to accomplish in our life.
Well, and what I like about this quote and looking into it is I've heard people go around in my lifetime and making statements, there's no meaning to life. Like, what is it? And it's like, yeah, you have a purpose and there is meaning when you apply it.
But see, even saying there is no meaning is the meaning to your life.
There's
It's meaningless.
right,
See,
right.
um,
Yes, and I was taking that portion out because it is meaningless. There's only meaning when you, apply the meaningfulness to it. And so there has to be some action. There has to be some engagement in your own life to include the laughter, include what you like to watch and what kind of attitude, what kind of people you wanna be around that brings joy, that brings those healing factors into your life. So, it's not that you just sit there, you have to do the work.
I agree. And what you made me think of there is that, in terms of social media and all those things that people utilize to get information, they are generally told about toxic relationships and toxic narcissism and all these negative things, and how to counter them and how to deal with them. But they're not really taught about what is a healthy person like. What's the personality of a healthy person? How would they engage you? How would you engage someone who's healthy? It's all negative. It's all about pathology. So people are learning about pathology, not about health and wellness.
I believe that I'm going to say something in a way that echoes what you're saying. So, if they were to approach these individuals were to approach the situation that is their business, whoever is acting in a certain manner, and that is their business to figure out why they're acting in a certain way, figure out how it makes you feel, what you want to be around, what you don't want to be around, and connect right back to yourself, opposed to focusing on them, focus to yourself. And this is what I call, this is not a technical term, but people like to sit there and point out words like, "This person did that. They were acting this way with me." I like to say to do the 180 now with the hands, put it right back to yourself. How are you feeling? But not in an accusatory way, in a manner of, how are you feeling? Do you like being around this person? Do you not? Do you need to? It helps you make appropriate adjustments and do what you talk about, tempering maybe how you feel with connecting with yourself and listening to yourself. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yay.
And let me add to that one other thing. When client comes in and they leave and they say, I feel better, what that tells me is that we've accomplished increasing neural integration. If they say, they leave feeling worse, then they have decreased neural integration. So my point in saying that is, if you're around health and making healthy choices, you will feel good. If you're making bad choices around unhealthy people, it's going to leave you feeling wanting.
I would agree with that. And part of my positive myth is that the universe is unconditional on how it presents things to you. So if you're going to have that thought process of being negative or acting negative, then it'll be okay, yes, here's some more negative. If you want to be positive and you would like to be around those people that make you laugh, or you're doing something that's engaging in your passions like photography or talking about this stuff today. The universe says, here you go, because that's your thought process. And it's just an example of that.
And let me say this, that again, pain and suffering are also part of life. They are part of our growth and development. And so if we're, like I said before, if you feel better, it's increased neural integration. If you feel worse, it's decreased. But we're always in the process of integration.
And grows.
Yeah, I mean, if you got hair, you got to get it cut every now and then.
Maybe, unless you're Jake, the long-haired Russian. Yeah, and that is something that I definitely learned with regards to pain and pleasure in this process and doing these recordings, is that they're both valued.
They're complementary.
Yes, and I just really look at them, me personally, I look at them both educationally.
Yeah, so don't run away from pain. Don't seek it unless you are one of those people that likes pain. But
But then you gotta look at that
you do have to look at that.
as to why.
Yeah. But instead, what are you supposed to learn from the pain? What is the pain needing from you because you need that?
All right. So I have an important question for future psychotherapists. Is it true that it's part of your secret sauce for you? Now, not everybody can use the same secret sauce to do the job that you do, but that you have to know dad jokes. Because if it is, I'm ready, and I have my first one I found, and I'm ready to tell it today.
Well, I would say therapeutic jokes. Like I'll give you this one, okay, and then you can tell your.
Okay.
This couple's 70 years old, and they've been married for 50 years, and they go to see an attorney for a divorce. And the attorney goes, I don't get it. Why now? And the husband goes, well, we wanted to wait until the children died.
That's terrible.
Oh. And here's how the joke is potentially therapeutic.
Potentially.
The purpose of it. Because people stay in relationships that are dysfunctional and unhealthy for the children,
Okay.
you see. Where really they're not doing their kids any favor by staying married when they're dysfunctional and unhappy.
Damn it, I really have to rethink my joke now. Dang it, I don't think it applies.
Well, tell it.
I'm still gonna tell it though. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know why the scarecrow win an award.
because they were outstanding in their fields.
That's very good.
I was so happy when I found that.
Well, that
But now I gotta.
that could be therapeutic.
Okay.
Just because you're weird doesn't mean you're not outstanding.
Okay. Well, that explains me.
Quite the opposite. If you can, host and honor your weirdness, you're probably going to be more outstanding.
Okay. Was there anything you'd like to add?
I don't know. Finish and we'll see if anything comes up.
Jake, what he likes to do is when I'm finishing the last portion, he likes to interrupt me. And then not him, it's his bunny.
Yes, it's delayed.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's delayed. I think it's on purpose.
Well, you will then, sir.
Well, yeah. But maybe today you won't. So we'll see. Thank you for joining Dr. Rini and I on this journey behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Join us next time as we will start Chapter 4 and discuss how breaking free from limiting beliefs and understanding the 3 forms of psychic energy can help us shift from self-sabotage to self-health and unlock deeper personal growth. Remember, questions or comments are welcome below. Now ask yourself, what part of your life might destiny be trying to speak through right now? Keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, destiny isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. Until next time, be well.